My wife is demanding I stop giving money to my ex. I'll start by saying that the money I give my ex is for my kids, 11, 13, and 16. I don't pay a set amount of child support every month, but I support my kids. My ex and I worked out an arrangement, had lawyers look it over, and then filed those documents with the court. Our arrangement is legal. At the end of each month, my ex and I meet to discuss the upcoming month's expenses: rent, food, school, health insurance, extracurriculars. Whatever expenses are needed for the kids, we sit down and discuss. Some months, my kids need more. Some months, they don't. I also put money aside each month for emergencies. For instance, when my ex broke her leg, I covered her while she was off work. And when her mom died and she couldn't afford to pay for her and the kids to fly to her hometown, I covered for the kids. My ex goes the extra mile for me too when I need it. When my parked car was totaled by joyriding kids, she lent me her car until I got another. Or when my wife and I had to isolate during the pandemic due to COVID, my ex did our shopping for us and even brought over some home-cooked meals. This is the type of co-parenting relationship we have, and I'm not willing to change it. It works for us, and more importantly, it works for our kids. My wife has 2 kids, 16 and 18, and her relationship with her dad is toxic. They can't be around each other without getting into arguments. Both she and her ex blame each other for the end of their relationship, and neither is willing to set aside their issues for the kids. Early on in our relationship, my wife tried to involve me, but I told her that wasn't happening. Her kids love their dad as much as they love their mom, and I didn't want to make an enemy of a man I didn't know. Now that I do know him, I see he's a good guy. The problem with the money I give my ex started earlier this year. My wife's ex lost his job. He found another, but it doesn't pay as much. So his child support was reduced because of his income change, and then reduced again when their eldest turned 18. I never asked how much child support he paid or what my wife did with it. I saw it as something between her and her ex, just like the arrangement I have with my ex is between her and me. The kids were taken care of, they didn't lack anything, and she never asked me to cover anything for them besides what I would normally pay for as their dependents under my roof. I didn't need to know more than that, but now she says she's not getting enough and doesn't have enough for things like getting her hair done, spa days, her insurance, phone, and putting gas in her car. She wants me to cover these things. I have a set amount of money coming in each month, and every dollar is accounted for. I pay for my kids, my mortgage, my bills, food, insurances, and everything I need to pay. That's a lot of money going out each month. I don't have much left for savings once that's all gone. But my wife wants what's left, and she wants me to cut back on what I give my ex. What I don't understand is, where's her money? She works part-time, still gets support from one child, and doesn't contribute financially to the household, except for takeout dinners she brings home once or twice a month. So, where is her money? We've been fighting for months about money. I view her demands to cut what I give my ex as her wanting to take from my kids. She used to have a great relationship with my kids, but now she treats them as though they're obstacles to getting what she sees as rightfully hers. I've told her repeatedly over the past few months that I'm not going to let my kids go without, so she can get her nails done. In our last argument, she told me my attitude needed to change, that I need to start putting her first, or she'd consider whether or not she wants to remain married to me. In anger, I told her to call her lawyer after she moves the heck out of my house. Am I in the wrong here? Am I the a-hole? Sounds like she needs to work full-time if she's broke. And being a product of a broken home, I want to say good for you for being what sounds like a wonderful co-parent. It makes such a difference to children when they see their parents working together. Her youngest is 16. Why is she still working part-time? And what happens when that child turns 18 and the child support ends? Will she make even more demands? OP needs to shut this nonsense down now. Not a-hole. So you witnessed this toxic game playing with the ex, and this lack of putting her children first, and thought, wow, I want to tie myself to this woman. What a catch. Now this absolute peach wants to destroy your frankly ideal co-parenting relationship and have your children go without for her personal gain? Yeah, no. You're the a-hole for marrying this example of poor decisions, but not the a-hole for being unwilling to cave other demands. I'm imagining how unpleasant your children's experiences with her and how it never had to be that way. Get the damn divorce and be more selective about who your children are forced into relationships with. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my girlfriend childish and telling her to leave after she intentionally destroyed a gift that I got from my little sister? My girlfriend Megan and I live together. She had a fight with her parents and asked if we could move in together, so we did. Not too long ago, I had to take my little sister in. I can't disclose much except to say that I was her only option. When Megan and I discussed my sister moving in, Megan didn't like the idea. She mentioned that I was too young to take on such a responsibility, questioned what would happen when we eventually have our own kids, and noted that our place was too small. However, she didn't outright say she had a major issue with it. I obviously couldn't turn my back on my sister, so I went ahead with it despite Megan's reservations. Although my sister has always been friendly to Megan from the moment they met, Megan remains indifferent, which sucks because my sister really admires her and enjoys talking to her. I just thought maybe they don't connect because of my sister's age. A month ago, I bought my sister a Nintendo Switch since she's always wanted one and all her friends have one. I felt she deserved it because she does well in school, helps with chores, and is generally well behaved. She loved it and has been taking good care of it. Megan wasn't happy when I bought it. She actually sulked. Megan would borrow the Switch incessantly, and my sister never said no, maybe because she felt pressured. But Megan would use it so much that it felt like it belonged to her. My sister never complained. She would just patiently wait for her turn. Sometimes Megan would use it even when my sister was at school, saying she gets bored when I'm at work. All this made me uncomfortable, so I asked Megan to please cut back on using the Switch, as it was a gift from my sister. Megan agreed, but was clearly upset and gave us the silent treatment for the rest of the night. Last week, when I came back from picking up my sister from school after work, we found her Switch broken. And that's putting it lightly. It looked deliberately smashed. My sister was devastated. When I asked Megan what had happened, she told us she accidentally dropped it, but it was obvious she was lying. When I pointed out her behavior and the times she seemed to have an issue with my sister, she got annoyed and told me everything was fine until my sister moved in. I called her childish and asked her to please pack her bags and go back to her parents' house because I needed space and time to think. This only made her more annoyed, but she eventually left. Last night, her best friend texted me to tell me that I was an a-hole for kicking Megan out, especially knowing how rocky her relationship with her parents is. Does this make me an a-hole? Not the a-hole. She sounds vindictive. You deserve better. She is, and to think I thought we had a future together. She should pay to replace the Switch. She is unemployed. I'm the one who is paying rent, bills, and everything else. Not the a-hole. She isn't your wife. She does not get a say in your decision to take your sister in. And she is quite frankly a despicable person for bullying and intentionally hurting an 11-year-old who looks up to her. On top of that, she sounds like a terrible partner too. You work and let her live rent-free, and she does nothing all day but play on a Switch and bully your sister? And look at that. The first time you stand up to her BS and she already ran to her friend vilifying you. Dump her like radioactive waste and tell her friend to eat glass. If she cares so much, she can take on the insufferable burden that is your ex. I spoke to her beforehand to let her know so as to not take her by surprise. I was really taken back by her reservations, but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. Not everyone welcomes change easily, and she is an only child who doesn't understand what it's like to have siblings. But I see now that she is not a very nice person, because who would have an issue with an 11-year-old that looks up to you and is just happy to be in a stable environment? And to go as far as destroying something that she cherished and then lying about it. She just seems unstable, and I don't want her around my sister anymore. She wouldn't survive living with her friend. She always trash talks her, shaking my head. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being happy that karma's getting my ex-husband tenfold? I'm 31 female and my ex-husband is 33 male. We were married for 7 years. I was naive back then and didn't know who I was marrying. So in part, it feels like my fault for not being more vigilant or walking away much sooner. As we all know, there are two sides to every story, but those were the most miserable 7 years I ever had. Between his drinking, poor financial habits, and his constant disregard for me and our inability to communicate, I was not having a good time. There were days I'd have full mental breakdowns, and he would mock me or try to diminish who I was as a person during those episodes. He thought very highly of himself, to the point that many people who know him believe he's an actual narcissist. If you've ever dated or been married to one, then you know the emotional warfare they put you through. He would make me second-guess myself in arguments or daily conversations that I started to believe my memory was glitching. Whenever I tried to discuss him not drinking, he'd give me ultimatums about how much he should be allowed to drink, or he'd tell me I could leave if I didn't like it. I could never discuss finances with him because it always led to a big fight. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up, but we would still be in constant financial crisis month to month, even though we both had decent-paying jobs. I go out to pay for groceries he knew I was getting, check our bank account in the morning, and then by the time I'd get to the store, my card would decline. Every week, our account would be negative by hundreds. It got so bad he took out loans without my knowledge, opened credit cards, and financed things without communicating with me. Between his drinking, vaping, buying takeout instead of eating leftovers or packed lunches, loans, financing, and credit cards, we never had money. He was very verbally abusive too, and used various tactics to wear me down. From talking to me like a child when I was upset, to pushing me into a corner even when I asked to take a break from the conversation, to blowing up or acting tactfully calm to push me to my limit until I exploded. It was exhausting trying to talk to him about anything because I never knew how he would react. Don't get me started about sex. He was not nice or loving person when it came to intimacy. He was very coercive and pushy for years, despite me telling him multiple times that I struggled with intimacy due to traumatic experiences as a child and teen. The more he pressured or guilted me, the harder it was for me to feel any desire. I started feeling like something was wrong with me. When I was alone, I'd cry and ask myself why I couldn't be like other women. I was attracted to him, but it was challenging for me. He would take it personally and say things like, "Husbands and wives need to be intimate, or it's not going to work out." There was hardly ever any foreplay or warm-up for me. Sometimes I just let him do what he wanted so I could be left alone afterward. It never felt loving or comfortable. He would berate me for seeking advice from friends or family. It ticked him off to no end when I reached out to people who cared about me, accusing me of talking trash about him. Always playing the victim, or running off to tell everyone our business because that's what you do best. In his eyes, I couldn't talk to anyone about our business except him, or I was defying him or making him look bad. Eventually, it came to our 7-year mark where I asked for some time apart. He had stopped trying at his job and had fallen into a depression. He wanted me to support him, but he was worse than ever, and I didn't know how to keep supporting that. I wanted out. When I approached him about a separation, he was sad but supportive at first. Then one morning, he completely flipped out on me as we were getting ready for work and demanded a divorce instead. He didn't want to try to reconcile or even consider getting back together after some time had passed. He said he didn't trust me, accusing me of wanting the separation so I could go to sleep with whoever I wanted and then come back when I was done. It couldn't have been further from the truth, but he constantly accused me of cheating. I, of course, cried and had to go to work like that, sharing our one vehicle that I paid for because he had destroyed our second car. So I endured an uncomfortable, emotional 40-minute ride to work with him, trying to keep my emotions in check for the day. It wasn't fun, but like with everything else, I kept going. In the weeks leading up to my moving out, I paid all the last month's bills in our home so he wouldn't have to. It was a nightmare. He would go from regretting me leaving to threatening me, cussing me out late at night over the phone, to being calm and forgiving again. Soon he revealed that he had slept with a coworker he was friends with while we were still married. I'd already been concerned about how close they had become over the last 3 years, with him confiding in her about our marriage and constantly defending and supporting her. I wasn't surprised, but I was still angry when he used it to rub my nose in it. Mind you, our divorce hasn't been finalized, and I had only moved out a few weeks earlier, leaving him with almost everything except my car. This relationship didn't work out. Shocking, I know, which led him to try coming back months later. When I denied him and made it clear it was over, he freaked out. He stalked my house, threatened me, harassed my family, and eventually I had to call the police on him. Since then, he got a better job, bought his own car, and planned to move out of our old house. He rubbed his new job in my face and told me he'd be fine without me. Recently, I heard got his car repossessed, was evicted from our old house before he could move, lost his fancy job, and now lives with a roommate somewhere I don't know. On top of that, Aaron's, a furniture financing store, called me because somehow I'm still listed as one of his contacts. They were trying to reach him before taking him to court for theft because he hadn't paid a cent and moved without informing them. After all he put me through, I laughed myself silly. But a small part of my conscience still feels bad for him because he was someone I loved and spent many years with. Though in the end, he did me the biggest favor I could ever ask for by telling me he wanted that divorce. Thank God. Question. You listed a mountain of bad things that he did to you and then you say that he didn't try to reconcile with you, as though you wanted him to? Back then I did, but since being without him and going to therapy, I strongly recognize how unhealthy that was for me. Fully leaving an abusive relationship can be extremely hard when you feel weird attachments to the person. You're not the a-hole for feeling relief and even joy at his misfortunes. After enduring so much emotional turmoil, it's natural to feel that karma is finally catching up with him. You deserve to celebrate your freedom and the closure that comes with it. Your happiness is valid. Honestly, if joy were a crime, you'd be serving life without parole right now after all that emotional roller coaster. You deserve to ride this wave of happiness like it's the last ride of an amusement park OP. You didn't love him, you loved who he fooled you into believing he was. He was never that loving person. It was a mask, and after he had you, he took off the mask. What he did was deliberate and calculated, for his amusement and gain. Stop feeling any guilt, please. Not the a-hole. This is a good point. I definitely felt tricked for a long time and found myself arguing with him in terms of who he was when we first met, versus who he became shortly after getting married. It was always the way he truly was, and I couldn't see it. Small edit/update. I have since gotten an incredible job, a new car, and I live on my own. For years, he made me feel like I could never do it, that I wouldn't be able to stand on my own 2 feet without him or ever be independent. I was wrong to believe him back then, and he was wrong to underestimate me. I did not expect so much positive outreach, so thank you for that, everyone. It has been a roller coaster and a journey for me, but having so much support is such a beautiful thing. Thank you again a million times over.